Twice Born, original title Venuto al Mondo, 2012 film from actor-director Sergio Castellito, starring Penelope Cruz, Emil Hirsch, Adnan Haskovic and Sadet Aksoy. It starts off as a romance told through flashbacks, but then grows into quite a bit more as the story unfolds. In the first scene of the film, which takes place in the modern day, Penelope Cruz's character, Gemma, receives a phone call from an old friend of her from Sarajevo. They knew each other before the war in Bosnia and during it as well, and then she ended up leaving to go back to Italy, where she's from, and she continued her existence there while he stayed in Sarajevo. They lost touch. Now he found her again. He's inviting her to visit, and she ends up taking up that offer and going and taking her son, her teenage son, from her first marriage. And the journey serves as a pretext to go into these extended flashbacks, which tell the story of how she met her first husband, played by Emil Hirsch, all the way back in 1984 Sarajevo. How they met, fell in love, married against all odds, and then led a troubled and chaotic life, desperate to have kids and grow old together, but life sort of standing in the way of that. And eventually we learned we learned what happened to him, how the son came to be born, and the entire story of the relationship is sort of thrown on the canvas of wartime tragedy and misery. And this, in my opinion, is where the movie really shines, is that it initially seems to be a very straightforward and simple romance film with war just as a backdrop. And about 15 minutes in, I was sure I knew exactly how the rest of it was going to go and what the movie was going to be about. But then it really becomes more than it seems, exploring the heavy topics of war, violence, dangerous times, fertility issues, guilt and trauma. It's certainly a difficult watch. There is especially one key scene in the climax of the film which can be very traumatizing due to its contents, so you gotta be sort of careful with that. But I thought the film on the whole really does its job of pulling the viewer in, emotionally speaking. I was engaged in what was going on and heartbroken at the senseless acts of violence as a result of the Bosnian War. And it makes it all the more terrible to know that as much as the film itself is fictional, the war wasn't, and things like that did certainly happen to people living there. I think it's beautifully shot, but the thing that stands out even more are the performances. Penelope Cruz is tour de force as usual, and it's remarkable for me to think that I've now seen her be amazing in films where she's speaking English, Spanish and now Italian. She shows incredible range here in playing this character at various ages and stages of life, and also credit to the makeup department for making her look her age at the various points of the film. And she manages to be equally convincing every single time. Emil Hirsch is very good as well. I also really loved the performance from Sadet Aksoy. She enters the film as a sort of secondary character, and I didn't give her a second thought initially, but then she becomes probably the most important person in the entire film, and she's fantastic in this role, which really demanded quite a lot from the actress. I want to say I enjoyed the film, but with movies like this, it's kind of a strange word to use, because it's heavy and heartbreaking and quite depressing at times. But it is very good at what it's doing, and it worked for me on an emotional level and on the technical one. Solid movie.